Hey guys, welcome back to another day and another video. I wanted to run through how I approached race day with Jessica Hawkins. So the event that I'm at is the GT Endurance World Race, GT World Endurance Race. I don't know how many there are throughout the season, but Jess invited me along to come to this endurance race. So it is a 6-hour long race. There are 3 drivers. Each driver does 2 1-hour stints throughout the 6 hours. Quite self-explanatory, but what that means is Jess is only in the car during the race for 2 hours, so only 2 times. So I have to decide what I want to shoot and where I want to shoot and how I want to shoot it, depending on what Jess is after or what I deem creatively acceptable or what I want to do, basically. The things to note, so the things that the hot action that you want to kind of like capture is changeover. So driver changeover. I want to get some footage of Jess getting in the car during a driver changeover. So what does that entail? The car pulls into the pit lane with, let's say, driver A. Driver A gets out of the car and driver B is getting into the car, all while the car is being serviced. So new tyres, the front screen will be washed, or what, depending, there might be refueling depending on what stage of the stint they're in. So the way that I would go about doing this is, for video anyway, is going wide, because then that's going to give me the most area to work with. So if there's a lot going on, I've got more chance capturing it. Instead of trying to focus on, like a tight punched in shot of maybe Jess getting in the car or something, I'd rather go wide, capture as much as I can, and then punch in or be creative in post-production. The other things that I want to capture on throughout this whole event is obviously Jess on track. Being that the whole event was at Paul Ricard is basically, it's like a car park. It's not a bad track, but it's also not a great track for content, because every corner pretty much looks the same. It has those stripes and the stripes on, and well, it's just not very visually interesting to shoot on a personal level. I did get some cool photos. You can see them on the screen, and I did get some cool video from different corners. But the car is doing a lot of the lifting in these scenarios. In some locations, in different tracks, you have beautiful tracks where you have like hills or trees and other things that you can shoot through. Paul Ricard is not really one of those tracks. So the way that I approached this was I wanted to focus mostly on Jess getting in the car and then Jess on track, but then also some of like the behind the scenes and stuff going on from that way. So what lenses did I use for this? I had a 60-600 from Sigma that I loaned from Sigma. Massive shout out to Sigma UK for sorting that out for me, because it was a last minute thing, and I'm very grateful for them. I was also using the 16-28 Sigma f2.8 as well. And then for photography, like in the garage and stuff, I was using a Hasselblad X2D. For on-track stuff, I was using the Sony a7R5. And then for video, I was using the Sony FX3, which was kindly loaned to me by Adam, who is a fellow creator. He was there shooting video, but he was using his FX6, so he had his FX3 spare, and he offered me to borrow it. Obviously, I said, yes, please, thank you very much. I will link Adam below for obviously helping me out. I really appreciate it. The reason I wanted the Sony FX3 was because the Sony FX3 has a second base ISO of 12,800. What that means is the image cleans up at 12,800, so the noise reduces. So that would give me a cleaner image during the night portion of the race, which enabled me to be able to get like slow-mo of the cars going through the frame, through corners at nighttime, where I wouldn't have been able to get that with the Sony a7R5 for video anyway. For photo, obviously the Sony a7R5 is perfectly fine. You just change your ISO and your shutter speed to adjust for the lighting, etc. you all know how it works. The video side of things was where the limitations could creep in, and this is where editing is really important, and making sure that the contrasts aren't too dark and there isn't too much noise going on. Obviously, you're going to get a bit of noise when you're shooting at really dark times, when it's really dark outside, because the other thing about Paul Ricard, it is not a lit track. It is a dark track. The only light that you get is from the cars, apart from on obviously like the pit straight, but the rest of the track is pretty dark and unlit, which is a bit crap, to be honest. So I'm excited to go and do other races with Jess this season, potentially in Monza and potentially in Spa. Nothing is confirmed yet, but we're waiting for confirmation on that. But I wanted to run you through some of the thought processes that go into it. So how do I go about planning for corners? Now, you can do the track walk, which we did in a previous video, but what I also like to do is go onto Google Earth, and you can obviously change the perspective, and I can kind of see what corners work and what doesn't. The other thing you have to keep in mind is on track you have red zones. So red zones are high impact areas, or areas that could potentially cause risk to people or stewards and photographers and videographers, creators on the sidelines. So in red zones, you're not allowed to stop and shoot. You have to move past the red zones and shoot in the non-red zones, which again, in Paul Ricard, the red zones this year happen to be mostly in the good spots. So not only is it a hard track to shoot at, it is then obviously a hard track to shoot at because of the red zones. So it just makes it a little bit more difficult. Now, of course, it's totally fine having these red zones. They're there for safety. If you're wondering how you get accredited and how you go about the process, now obviously it's completely different depending on the race organisers and who the race organisers are, but it will always most likely be on the website, and those are the people you need to talk to. So that's quite self-explanatory. You find the site, the page on the site, you need to find all the information and then just go about it that way. You will need liability insurance, obviously, which you should have as a professional shooter anyway, along with the overalls that you've seen in a previous video, and you'll also need a hard hat, a helmet, to be able to shoot in the pit lane. I just wanted to give you some backstory on how you go about doing this, some information about the process, because sometimes that information isn't always out there. So if you have any questions, just drop it down in the description, in the comments below, and I'll do my best to get back to you. With all that being said, the shoot was insane. Loved it. I was absolutely fucked by the end of it because I was walking around Paul Ricard because I didn't have a scooter, but that's fine. That's just part of it, and I'm healthy because I walk a lot. So there we go. Create more, stress less, and I will see you in the next one.